Joe, I'm just going to cut to the chase this week. Injuries have been taking over this team a little bit over the past couple of weeks, so we will start with the pitching staff and CC Sabathia. What's the latest on him?
Well, he has some degenerative issues with his landing knee, which would be his right knee, and he went and saw Dr. Andrews, had a procedure. He will get off his crutches on Monday and start rehabbing his knee. And the only reason they put him on crutches was they wanted the procedure to get the full effect in this, so they didn't want any weight bearing. It's not like his knee got worse than it was before. And then we'll start rehabbing him and see if we can get him back playing catch and on the mound.
You look at him, and coming into this season, you guys had such high hopes, as you always do for CC Sabathia. But in talking to you, you really felt like this was the year where he was going to turn it around from last season. How disappointing do you think this is, not only for the team, but for CC? Well,
I think it's really disappointing for CC because I think he was adjusting to what he had to do. And I think it became a little bit evident now that I look back that he wasn't able to get over his front knee, and maybe that's why his sinker wasn't quite as good and he had some issues. And it is frustrating because this guy really wants to be on the mound. He wants to lead our staff. He wants to give us 220 to 240 innings. And he's got a little problem, so we got to get it taken care of, and hopefully we'll get him back soon.
How much do you think he waited to say something, knowing what was going on with this rotation? You had already lost Ivan Nova, you had already lost Michael Pineda, and he wanted to be the anchor for the staff.
Well, I think it had been going on for 3 or 4 starts, but it got to a point, the last start, where it was almost every pitch. He said before it'd be a couple pitches here, a couple pitches there. He would feel it. He had swelling after the start before the Milwaukee start that he didn't really let on to us because he wants to be out there. He's a real competitor. You know, he's used to pitching on short rest and giving your team a ton of innings. And, you know, probably because of the other 2 injuries, he didn't want to make excuses and he wanted to try to help, and it just became too much.
And with him, do you then have to build his arm back up, or is he not going to be down long enough where that's going to be an issue in getting him back?
Well, hopefully he's not down too long and he can start playing catch and you don't have to build him up as much. Michael Pineda, we're going to have to build up a little bit. He's throwing a bullpen, and he'll continue to throw some bullpens and start to get into some games, hopefully. But CC, we'll have to wait and see.
You mentioned Michael Pineda. How much are you looking forward to getting a guy like that back?
Well, we want him back. We've missed him, and he was throwing so well before all this happened. And you know, hopefully he'll start throwing some more bullpens, some live batting practice, and get in a game pretty soon.
You look at him, it wasn't the shoulder itself, but it was a muscle that was surrounding the shoulder. So do you take it a little bit slower with him knowing he's coming off of that major surgery?
Well, I think, you know, they're looking at Clayton Kershaw as kind of a guideline here. He was out about 6 weeks, and that's probably what Michael's going to be out about 6 weeks. And you can't rush it too much. And he's young, he's coming off a serious injury, and we got to make sure that he feels good before we put him back out there for competitive innings.
And another guy that was a big part of your bullpen coming in, he was kind of serving as the 8th inning guy, was Sean Kelly. He went down with an injury as well, but he seems to be on the mend.
He is on the mend. He will play catch Monday and Tuesday, hopefully, and then throw a side and get in a game maybe at the end of the week, and maybe we'll get him back, you know, either late at next week or early the following week. So we like where he's at right now, but you know, he still has to clear some hoops.
Well, when you're at home, they're technically still in the room and still in the clubhouse, but not yet playing. Other guys that are on the DL, Carlos Beltran with that bone spur. At first the cortisone wasn't taking, but then there were reports that he was feeling a little bit better. Where does he stand right now?
It is a little bit better as we speak. You know, he's not having the pain just at home. You know, he's not swinging or anything. He's going to see Dr. Andrews on Tuesday. But he does feel better, and that's a step in the right direction. When we'll get him back, I don't know. Obviously, we got to get him to a point where we feel that he can start to take some swings, and then we'll know a lot more.
Is that the telltale sign when he actually starts swinging to see exactly how that elbow responds?
Yeah, I think so, because, and it's not so much even the swinging, it's that swing and miss, really, because that's when you get that extension. Because usually when you make contact, you're used to that. So it's that swing and miss. Maybe he's out front a little bit of one. That's the ones you worry about.
Now, General Manager Brian Cashman spoke at Citi Field a couple of days ago, and he said the last thing we want with Carlos Beltran is that in-between stage where he thinks he can come back, can't come back, then is shut down again, and eventually needs the surgery. As a player, how do you weigh that? How do you decide, all right, we should just go ahead and get the surgery, or I want to continue to try to rehab this?
It's hard, because he wants to be on the field, and he wants to help out and be a part of this, and players are used to playing through pain because that's what you do. You feel good the first day of spring training, and then you start getting nicks and bumps. But it's when it becomes too much, and you can't do what you're capable of doing, that a lot of times we have to help him realize it's time. You have to get this taken care of.
Now, Ichiro tried to make a play on a ball out in Milwaukee, and he had missed a bunch of games thereafter with some back issues. A little surprised how long he was out with that, because Ichiro is a guy that very rarely misses time.
He's been on the DL one time for 15 days. Yeah, I was. But it just wasn't right, you know, and I think he's so used to playing every day, he just probably felt, you know what, I'll feel good tomorrow, or I'll feel good the next day, and he didn't. But we were able to get him in the game Saturday. He felt good enough to get in the game Saturday, and that's a good sign, and he's, you know, I think he's okay.